Hello. Yeah, welcome to the last presentation on inventory and overhead. Now, in this video, I want to focus on the third cost flow assumption, and that is the weighted average. And I'm going to use the same example I used for FIFO and also LIFO method, and I'm going to use it for the weighted average method. Again, the key idea, if you followed the first video and the second video, you'll have a clear narrative of the problem. But here we go again. Something to just to remember is that there's a series of purchases and also beginning inventory in this problem, where our beginning inventory is 125 units at a cost of 95, and then there was some purchases March 1st, June 1st, September 1st, and December 1st. So they bought more inventory at different prices. Now we know that during the year the company sold 150 units. It's given in the problem. So they sold 150 units. So we know that the units that were available for sale was 365 and they sold 150. It means then in the ending inventory you have 215 units remaining. So how do we go about in using the weighted average to compute the ending inventory value and also the cost of goods sold, the 150 units that were sold? So I'm going to use the same Excel that I used in the other two examples. The only thing I'm focusing here is on the weighted average method. So we know that we need to compute our weighted average, and therefore we compute our weighted average. So again, just a simple quick formula is that our weighted average will be, we take the cost of goods available for sale and we divide this, and that is the dollar value. So uh, we take the dollar value and we divide with this with the cost of goods available for sale, but this is in terms of units. Now, in our case, I already did the extension here. We had a beginning of 125 units at a cost of 95. You multiply these two values, you find this to be 11,875. Then on March 1st, they bought 50 units at a cost of 105. This will be 5,050. Then on June 1st, they bought 65 units at a cost of 98. Then the total cost for June purchases is 6,370. And then on September 1st, they bought 75 units at a cost of 90. That gives us a total cost of 6,750. And then on December 1st, they bought 50 units at a cost of 103, and that gives us a total cost of 5,150. So in terms of the dollar value, the cost of goods available for sale for this particular period, in terms of the dollar value, it is 35,195 if we just sum up all those extensions. And then in terms of units, the cost of goods available for sale in terms of units, our total unit count is 365. And therefore our average price, is going to be, you take the 360, so then you will take the 35,195 and you divide this with 365 units. And therefore, our average price, instead of using the 95, because we don't use an average number, in this example, our average price is going to be, you take the 35,000 and you divide this with the 365 units, and we have an average price of 96.42. So with this 96.42 represents our weighted average price. That's the cost of the item. So we're going to be using this number to compute then our uh, so that we're going to use that value to compute the cost of the ending inventory. The same thing in terms of per unit, our ending inventory. Again, we are going to do the same thing. We are going to take the cost of goods available for sale, that's the dollar value, and we divide this with the number of units that were available for sale, and that will give us the same value. So now we know that the company sold 150 units during the period. So they sold 150 units. So in terms of the cost of goods sold, is going to be the 150 units that they sold. So we know that they sold 150 units. And what was the cost? The cost in this example, we are using the average, the weighted average. Our weighted average is 96 per unit, 96 and 42 cents per unit, and therefore our cost of goods sold is going to be 14,463 and 70 cents. And in terms of the ending inventory, again, we can tell if we had 365 available for sale and we sold 150 units, it means then we were left with 215 units. So in terms of our ending inventory, the value will be the 215 units that were left in the inventory times our average price, that's our average cost, and our average cost again is $96.42. And if we do so, then our our value of our ending inventory is going to be 20,731. And you could check just to make sure your numbers are matching, right? So what you could do again, if I do this to two decimal places, just to make sure. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that your cost of goods are sold and your ending inventory, these two values should then match your initial computation of the cost of goods available for sale. And if I look at the two values, I take this value and I add the ending inventory. It should give me 35,195, which is matching my cost of goods available for sale. And again, this is just an indication that my working is correct, uh, and I should have no error in trying to compute the cost of goods sold or the ending inventory. So just a validation element, just to validate that what you were doing, I think was done correctly. So again, I hope you understand how to go about in using the weighted average and FIFO. Refer to my previous video, or LIFO, refer to my previous video. So I hope the information helps, and let me know if you have any questions.